In this video, I'm going to be building this desk, specifically the L-shaped desk, completely from foam and a couple of skinny sticks. So I went ahead and drew the top out. Not totally necessary, but I wanted to see what it would look like with the 6-inch figure. Using the measurements for the top, I'm cutting all the little pieces out on the hot wire cutter, kind of eyeballing things as I went. Also having to thin some pieces down here, obviously, for the top of the desk. And these two chunky bits are going to be the file cabinet drawers on the side. And I also need some supports to make the legs out of. Using a wire brush, we're doing the wood technique on the top of the desk. Aleene's tacky glue and also some hot glue to hold this together while the Aleene's tacky glue dries. I got this nice silicone mat underneath me here, so that really helps with the glue cleanup because it basically won't stick to that. Bit of squeeze out here, just cleaning that up. The hot glue does make it difficult to clean up the squeeze out sometimes, but you can cut it away later with a knife if you really have to. So just checking to see how big this piece is. I could have measured this before, but I just figured I'd line it up because you never know exactly how much extra room there might be from some of the other stuff you're setting on there. So just going to use the old Aleene's tacky glue and the hot glue again for this part. Now this piece, I'm going to cut this down and use the ruler, although the hot wire cutter would have been perfectly fine. I'm not going to use hot glue for this because it's the last piece. I'm going to let this dry for a little bit. You don't really need the hot glue. It's just handy to have everything hold together in that moment so you can kind of keep working. I'm using a couple of pins here to just hold this piece in and make sure it doesn't slide around. Also, I wasn't too happy with the amount of glue I had in there, so I just added a little bit more on the inside. Gluing in this big leg in the corner here, and I'm going to put all the little legs on here. I was testing this out. I didn't show, but I was using the ruler to measure these to just get it all correct so it wouldn't wobble. Yeah, that came out pretty good. These are going to be the drawer fronts. Now obviously these drawers don't open, but it looks fine, for what I'm going for here. Making the entire thing out of foam. If you were going to make opening drawers on something, you'd probably be better off making it out of wood. Using tweezers and dropping stuff, but when I'm putting the glue on, I find it very hard to do that with my bare hands, so the tweezers are pretty much necessary for this part of the process, but I can kind of move them around with my fingertips afterwards if I have to. Having a couple of sets of tweezers is definitely useful for this hobby. Here's another neat tool I'm using to cut the skinny sticks or skinny popsicle sticks. It's also capable of doing angles at 45 degrees, which is really nice. And I always sand them down afterwards because the edges get kind of gnarly. I'm going to build this shelf to put on the top of the desk, so we're doing a little more wood grain with the wire brush. And I went for hot glue here because I just wanted to hurry up and get done, but if I was, I normally would probably use Aleene's tacky glue or consider using it. The hot glue seemed to work pretty good so far. It's a bit of a mess, but the tacky glue would take significantly longer to dry. So now that I have this here, I'm going to, yeah, it looks pretty straight. cut out the little globs of hot glue I had on there that were kind of bugging me. And I was able to get most of that off. So I'm pressing this into the foam to make little indentions so I know right where to put the glue. And we're using, you guessed it, Aleene's tacky glue yet again. Set that on there, and at this point I was just going to leave it to dry overnight because I was going to sleep. Now we're doing some painting. I'm using a honey brown for the top. These are just cheap craft paint you can get at any hobby store in the US. In some ways, painting the parts separately before I glued them together would have been easier, but I always like to build things and then paint once it's already put together. And sometimes I'll add little details on later for certain things. But I find it a lot easier to visualize it, especially if it's the first time you're building that item. You know, the building stage of it is very different than the painting stage of it, so it's easier for me. I enjoy the process more that way, I guess is the way I should put it. And I didn't show here, but I did actually use a smaller brush to get that green right up to the brown without overlapping the paint at all. So yeah, now that this is done, we're adding on a burnt umber wash, which is just a bit of burnt umber paint and some water and a couple of drops of dish soap. This was as far as I took the paint job. Now, obviously, you can do lots of extra steps you can add on there if you want to dirty it up and, you know, add some metal chipping and stuff, or, you know, graffiti marks or gum under the desk. Whatever you want to do, you can do all kinds of things to this to give it some more character. And I even have another one already made. I did on a live stream. I'm going to paint that beige and make it look a little different as well. And so I think this came out pretty cool. I actually haven't tried to make a desk before, except this other one that's right there, but these were all recent in the past week or so. I've been having a lot of fun with these. I kind of really like desks for some reason. Maybe it's because I spend a lot of time at one at home, and I used to at work. So I hope everyone enjoyed this and you get some use out of it. There's definitely a lot of ideas to be, you know, thought about with this kind of process for all kinds of desks and cabinets and stuff.